The Father Factory is a coaching service for dads that addresses the intergenerational impact of their trauma from childhood sexual violence. Voice lessons will help to bridge the traumatic past with its current developed spiritual, medical, physical, and behavioral conditions that are the result of CSV. Join us to help dads be intentional parents.
Reverend Dr. Sally MacNichol.
Which is how honoring every human being.
Yes.
Every human being, no matter who they are, because God created that person. You know, and there's sacred value in that person.
Yes. Yeah.
And every one of us needs to be honored.
That world, that environment respects the boundaries of individuals. The autonomy.
Yes.
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
I mean, because those words have to come after. Like, what does that mean? Respecting boundaries.
Yeah.
Respecting, like, even what you were saying, don't make assumptions why people are traumatized or why they're, don't make assumptions. Be humble. You never hear that word too much.
Yeah.
No one talks about you.
We got to bring it back. Humility, right? Because to really understand humility, I once heard like humility is being in a conversation with a person and not bringing anything up about you, but being so ingrained into what they're saying and what's going on with them. And I was like, wow. Now I know many people have done it for me, and I just go off talking. And I was like, I need to do that more for others, right?
I like to call that holy listening. That's holy listening, where you're just, and that's what's required when we're listening to people who are hurt. Let's see. I'm gonna read from Matthew 18, where Jesus is talking about children. And before, let's see, in verse, truly, let's start at verse 3. Truly I say to you, unless you turn and become like children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. Whosoever humbles himself like this child, he is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven. Whoever receives one such child in my name receives me. But whoever causes one of these little ones who believe in me to sin, it would be better for him to have a great millstone fastened around his neck and to be drowned in the depths of the sea.
Yeah.
I mean, it's as I was saying before, it's just so clear.
Yeah.
I mean, some of Jesus's most the strongest statements, clear statements, is that you honor children. That to be like a child, to get into the kingdom of heaven, you have to be like a child. And it's just clear. So
isn't it something that how quickly the children of Israel moved away from honoring their children and seeing their children in a certain light? Like the whole idea of Israel was that they would pass down the 10 Commandments to their children and their children's children. It was a communal, it was a family oriented society that you knew who was a part of your family, what they did and what they were about. To move so far away from children being like the center in a way that protected them, like that's something.
Especially after the children of Israel were so threatened. I mean, the Pharaoh was going to kill. I mean, that the origin is that. The origin of Moses is the killing of Hebrew babies, baby boys. I mean.
Wow. That's something like that hatred almost towards children and that anger towards children.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I feel, we were going to talk about the pillars of a safe church, and one of the ones that was really important in our collaborative work, among many others, which we'll talk about, but is honoring, creating a church community that puts honoring children at the center. Honoring children. And we do not honor children. We use them, we abuse them. And we know that we live in a society that doesn't honor children, or there wouldn't be 1 in 10 children in New York City is homeless. That's outrageous. That's such wickedness. And just the statistics about children and the way we ignore children. Who is talking about children in our politics? Nobody. Nobody's talking about children. I mean, some in terms of healthcare, yes, there's a little discussion, but no one really, because in this society, people only care about what can make you money. So they like children if they buy a lot of toys and, but not as the incredible sacred human beings that children are,
And we have a very pragmatic way of looking at life, even, right? The scripture says a good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children. And the thought is that we are to be thinking about generations beyond us, right? And when I meet with young men, we do a young men's meeting in our family. And we talked about like, what kind of preparation do you need to do now to ensure that 2 generations after you, when you're no longer here, are okay? Like, what do you do? And you think about it, like God gave the recipe to the children of Israel, that if you pass down the commandments, right, that will keep them safe, that will keep them in this place. In my church services, we have home church services, and every Sunday we read the 10 Commandments, and we're literally looking at the verses and reading it, but we had to retrain our minds to read honor thy father and thy mother, when we were saying honor thy mother and father. And it reads honor thy father and thy mother. And it's amazing how programmed we are around things, and how we even think that even means that children should do exactly what we want them to do, listen to every word that we say. Hell, it doesn't. It doesn't. To honor them, to honor your father and your mother, really gives this idea of, right, like the root of who you are and what you are about, that you respect and honor that about you, and therefore you do that for them as well. That there's this attention that's paid to their care and what's happening for them. There's so many seniors now that are terrified after they have felt like they have given their lives for so many years to their children and their community, and no one at this stage is thinking back to think about them and caring for them. And so when there's this breakdown of not even valuing the child, later on we see the effects of this. We see the effects of how it devastates our communities. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you're good. I was just thinking of how much abuse, physical abuse there is in the nursing homes, and how many of our seniors are dying, just straight neglect. All right. But you were saying, yes.
No, just that when we don't, you went right there. Like it goes down and it goes back, goes through the generations.
Yeah.
And we're pretty, first of all, we don't think generation. We don't think about generations anymore. We don't think about our ancestors. We don't think about our descendants. We should be thinking, well, we know that because look at the world. I mean, we haven't left a world that's okay for our children.
Yeah.
It's not okay for them right now. It's not going to be, unless we do something, to honor the earth and honor our children. It's going to be rough, and it's hard to think about that.
And I think so that people don't do what we said, we all find ourselves doing, getting fascinated with the actual character of the scripture and not realizing the God of the scriptures, is that we're not demonizing the scriptures at all. We're saying that they have been misused, but in its proper use, that it will actually be the remedy that we need in our earth, right? That when we are able to do like Jesus says to Peter, not 7 times, but 70, right? 70 times 7, right? So this idea that there's unconditional love and unconditional forgiveness out of this sense of my own fallenness or my own humanity and my own dignity, right? That I can look at a child. There's a quote that said, I want to say it's by Frederick Douglass, I believe it is, right? And I never liked this quote. So not trying to go against our ancestors, right? But I never liked this quote, but people use it, and they use a fragment of it. And it says something like, it's better to restore, it's easier to restore a broken child than a broken man, or a hurt child than a broken man.
Yeah.
Which almost, if you just use that quote alone and not any content with it, you almost say, well, at a certain stage later for them, they're worse off. Let's just focus on the kids. But you are working with the children so that they don't become broken men, right?
I think he's trying to do prevention.
Trying to do prevention, right?
But for an adult who feels like they might be broken, it doesn't sound.
But
I think that. I never thought of that before.
I've seen that in schools where they would use that quote. And it's like, so that the people they're working with are children. So it's almost like, let's rescue them before they do get to that place. I definitely hear that. But then we have people that are at that place because we didn't do the rescuing early in the generation before. And so we have to have this dual look at our work.
And we do have to believe that healing is possible. And God heals. At any time. You can be 99 and be healed.
Right. And you experience that healing in different ways, right? And at different times.
And at different times and in different ways, because our wounds show up at different times in our life.
Yes.
In different ways. And as a parent, I know we talked about this, I think we've talked about this, but I know in my life, I tended to have things come back to me at the age my children, when my daughter turned 5, I was like, wow, I'm thinking about all this stuff. And then those things from when I was 5 would come up. And then if I wasn't conscious of them and tried to turn them, then I would, I wouldn't be as good a mom as I could be. I would be unconscious about how I'm passing my wounds, my 5-year-old wounds, onto my 5-year-old, and doing that when I'm 13, when she was 13, like, you really have to be so conscious as a parent. And
that's the idea, right? The father factor is thinking like there has to be this journey of towards healing that is begun for those that are adult stage, right? Because you're going to give your fragmented life over to your children. So all of your fears, right? So if you fell off of a bike and you never got back on, now they not only have to wear every helmet and
right.
in security, you're literally running alongside of them with the bike and creating in them this fear, possibility of this fear that could hinder them to even try.
It made me think about another pillar that we talked about a lot about a safe church, and that is support for parents.
Yes.
Real support for parents, education about child sexual abuse, But not just child sexual abuse, but places where parents can go, just like what you're talking about, where parents can go. And it's so hard to be a parent in this world, you know. And so the church needs to create that space, because that will create safety if there's open space for people to talk about what's going on, and they can do that safely. So we have to honor children, but we have to honor parents also.
Yeah.
You know, and really do teaching and preaching and groups and information and education that can go to the parents.
Yeah. I think that's absolutely right. If we don't support families in the journey of parenting, we are going to, you know, kind of perpetuate the same things that we've seen before. And we don't want to actually do that. We actually want to we want the next generation to be better off than where we were, and more aware as well, right? I love the fact that you were thinking of it in a very holistic place, with a holistic view, because you were saying that we need to take care of our earth. Right? So it's not just in my household. I heard something earlier that was saying, if men think that they are doing well, I think that Ted Brunch said this.
Brunch.
Yeah. He was saying something along the lines of, if you're doing okay, right? If you're taking care of your household, but you have to get the sense that all women, right, are part of your responsibility to honor and to serve in any opportunity that you're able to do so. And that's taking this kind of like this worldview perspective that really while we were put here on this earth to do, right, to really keep the earth, right? So if we're not doing that, we're going to see these trickle effects of things that are happening.
Yeah. I mean, it's a household of God, right? The earth is a household of God. So, and I really appreciate, you know, that bringing that sentiment of it just can't be the women that are in your family. Because you hear people say, and first of all, we're talking about child sexual abuse. And a lot of that child sexual abuse is father-daughter too. You know? And so when people say, well, I have a daughter, so I care about women, I'm like, no, it doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean just because you have a wife or a daughter that you respect women, you know, or a sister. But people use that all the time. It drives me crazy, because I think of all those families where women were not respected as a sister and a daughter and a wife. You know? That's just a crazy excuse.
I like to always throw like new things out to, I guess, throw a wrench in the operation of bad behaviors and thoughts and stuff like that. And one of them is that if you support, and by support, watch and engage in porn, then you are lending to sex trafficking.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't even want to take a cab with one of those things on top.
Yeah.
I remember when a man at a conference said to all the people, it was a faith man, a pastor, I think, but someone speaking from a faith perspective. And he said, you know, we talk about we don't want child sexual abuse in the church, but you all are going out to strip clubs, you're getting into cabs with the things on top, and you're supporting just what you're saying. And I've had times where I've said that to people and they go, oh, come on.
Oh yeah, I've gotten the pushback. Yeah. That's like saying, I'm going to throw this brick in the water, but it's not going to create any waves. And I'm going to believe that the waves won't be created, right? Those waves will be created, and they will affect another part of that water.
Yeah, it's all grounded in an abusive belief system. You know, in an abusive belief system, you believe that you're centered, that you're the center.
Yeah.
And it could be people's, you know, like white supremacy or male supremacy or in a family or, you know, whoever, but that you are the center, that you are superior, like you really know better, really,
Yeah.
and you deserve to do what you want to do. That you're deserving of benefits, of getting the plate first before everybody, you know, that kind of stuff. And that's an abusive belief system. And I think I've been talking about it more as it's a belief system.
Wow. Yeah. That is powerful all the way through. So we've talked about misinterpretations that lead to environments that conceal, support, ignore, and support and ignore sexual violence. And we also talked about the pillars in the church that create a safe church. Any final words for us in reference to any of those two?
Well, I want to step back for 1 second.
Sure.
And say that, you know, in terms of that pillars of the church,
Yes.
of a safe church,
Yes.
you just have to make a commitment. It has to be a commitment, and it has to be open commitment, and you gotta talk about it.
Yes.
You have to break that silence. So the first thing is to talk about it and make it understand it based on the scriptures that we've talked about children, that Jesus says that this has to be central to your mandate as a community, to keep the children safe, to honor everyone in the community, to honor the children, to honor the parents, to honor God, of course. I mean, so, and then get the help, get the experts to come in, get you to come in, get people to come and talk. But you have to say, we are grounding ourselves in this, and we're going to use those words: child sexual abuse.
Yes.
Happening.
Yes. Yes.
Happening.
Thank you so much, Sally.
It has to be real.
Yes. Got to be real. Got to confront it. Got to talk about it, because that's where it starts for us, and that humanity of actually bringing that and naming it as a problematizing it. They say,
Naming it.
right? When you do that, then you have this ability to start looking at the solutions for it. And so we thank you so much for your time, your wisdom. This has been absolutely great.
Happy to see you.
Yes, happy to see you too. And we definitely have to do this again. There's so much to talk about on so many different levels of this particular work. And we're just looking forward to working with you guys and having a great time doing the work.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Blessings, Hassan.
Yeah.